Hey collectors, welcome to Star Wars Collected. I'm Jonathan. If you're new here, I hope you consider sticking around and subscribing. But if you've been here before, I want you to hit that like button like Han Solo blowing away a TIE fighter during the trench run, because what I have for you guys today is the MYC TIE fighter from A New Hope. I've had this for a while. I can't wait to get into it with you guys, and we're going to talk about MYC in general. Okay, collectors, there's always a lot of little pieces with this, so let's go ahead and hop into it. This is the A New Hope TIE Fighter. You know, very much a classic piece that I feel like everyone probably desires some sort of representation of that in their collection. If you're not familiar with MYC, they are a smaller maker out there, but they have been around for a long time. They did a ton of statues, and they continue to do a bunch of statues, but over the last couple years, they have started doing a lot of ships, which has filled a little starship-sized hole in my heart, because I was always wanting something that was a little bit more than those Hasbro ships, but I didn't really necessarily have the time to go and build models all the time either, even though that can be a really cool hobby. So MYC has given us now, gosh, I don't even know, at least half a dozen, maybe more ships that you can purchase from them. We'll get into a little bit about how you purchase from them here in a bit, but this is the TIE Fighter. Now, I was kind of late to the game on this one, but luckily this one was made and wasn't claimed, or whoever was supposed to be buying it ended up not following through with it. So I reached out to the guy at MYC, and he was kind enough, his name is Michael, he's awesome. He was kind enough to hook me up with this, which is fantastic. So excited to have this in my collection. MYC is something I've reviewed on the channel in the past. We have the giant ATST from them, which is really just an incredible piece. And honestly, I have quite a few things on pre-order with them. MYC has kind of gotten my big collecting dollars this year, and I think that's going to continue as long as they continue to produce very desirable pieces like this. So I have an AT-AT on order with them. I have a Y-Wing on pre-order with them. I have Mando's N1 Starfighter on pre-order with them. And the Slave One, they made a giant Slave One that I have on pre-order as well. And they have a couple other things coming out very, very soon, which is why I'm wearing this t-shirt, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So this stuff is always really, really big. They try to do their things whenever possible in studio scale, which is often, you know, around 1/24, something like that. And this one is no exception. So I'm gonna move this out here and move this box out of the way. All right, so Model T, this one is clean. Now there were clean versions, there were weathered versions, there were versions with lights inside the cabin, there were versions with glass on the front and without glass on the front. The original ones, the actual models, didn't have it because they didn't necessarily want it to be reflecting all of the studio lights that you have to use to shoot these pieces. So the original models actually do not have any sort of barrier between space and the pilots inside, which is kind of an interesting little Easter egg. But you may decide that you perhaps wanted that, so it would be a little bit more in-world. You know, we kind of talk about on this channel about sort of what your expectations of what something looks like versus what may have it actually been, and it's kind of up to you to decide which is more important to you. Some people look at the Darth Vader helmet, the EFX version, and it's got the multi-paint color on it, and for some people that kind of bothers them because they're like, that's not how I imagine Darth Vader, even though that is how he was in real life. So we're opening it up here, and I know you probably can't see a whole lot, but right off the bat here, we've got the perhaps most eye-catching part of this. If I can get it out. So MYC does a really good job of packaging their stuff up. Doesn't always mean that it's super easy to then get out, but here we go. We have the fuselage of the TIE Fighter. So again, this is the clean version, and just because it's so big, I'm gonna go ahead and start putting some pieces on the ground here. Don't mean any disrespect by that. And I've already moved a couple other small pieces here, and we've got a very cool card here. TIE Fighter Clean Limited Edition, 30 of 30. Like I said, there were a lot of variations on this one. And you have a very cool little plaque here. MYC Sculptures, Episode 4, A New Hope, TIE Fighter, 30 of 30. So I got the very last one in the run because, like I said, I really just got lucky on this piece. He had made a TIE Advance before that, which I was not on board yet, and I missed out on that one. And they also made a Snowspeeder that I also missed out on. Someday I'd love to pick those up. There is a secondary buy, sell, trade type page set up on Facebook just for MYC stuff. So if you see something here today, or you're interested in adding these things to your collection, make sure you check that out. In addition to that, I do see them on eBay occasionally as well. All right, we have our first wing here. And you know, they spent a lot of time figuring out all of these details, and I'm never an expert as far as when it comes to which greebles should be where and all that stuff, but to my eye, this stuff always looks very good. So even if maybe it's not 100% what should be there, there's never really a space on these that I can find that feels too plain or like it's missing something. And again, the packaging on this stuff is so good. Now, Michael does make the request that if you do get a piece of his, to open it up right away, so that way if there's any issues, he still has the option to maybe be able to contact the people that make it for him to get you a replacement. I did not follow that advice. I've had this for quite a few months, but with my gallery space here still being kind of in flux, it didn't really make sense for me to open it up. But there's a new MYC sculpture coming out that I want to tell you guys about here at the end. So I decided today would be a great day to open it up. Look at the detail here on these wings, these things right here. I believe the original version of this was some sort of like sunshade or something like that. That's just what I've seen some model makers use, but it definitely has that cool 1970s sci-fi sort of solar panel type look to it. Very, very cool. And we've gone another layer deep here. Now, all of the MYC ships so far have come with the same base, at least the same style of base, and I really appreciate that. As someone who refers to their collection as their gallery, I always kind of like that museum aesthetic. You know, I love seeing the work that people put into their spaces where they kind of make them look in world Star Wars. That's really cool, a lot of talent. But what I'm going for here to sort of make it mesh with my house and all that stuff is more of this sort of gallery space look. So I am loving their bases here. If you've watched some of my other videos, you'll know that ornate bases, environment bases, aren't always necessarily my favorite. Sometimes it really, really works. I do like the base on my Sideshow Rancor, for example, but I really love what they're doing here because it reminds me a little bit of the master replica stuff from years past, but it's not just a direct duplicate of that. They're still using some glass instead of the mirror and stuff like that. So it's kind of their own, but it just looks so, so good. Let's go ahead and take this plastic off here. And one thing that I think people underestimate even when they've ordered it is I don't think people understand the scale of these things. And I love scale. I love 1-to-1 size props. Obviously, I'm not gonna be able to get a 1-to-1 size TIE fighter in my house, but I love the fact that these props are big. That means you need to have the space for it, and I understand that not everyone has the space for it, but to me, it makes it all the more real, all the more interesting that you can really get the size up there. They usually do a really good job at color coding things. So this one has a piece black, this one is sort of the paint of this, so I'm guessing that this goes in here. All right, so that piece is in there, and we're gonna come in here with this, and that slides in there like so. So we have two different winged panels, and MYC always does a really good job at kind of helping you figure out where things go. So this one sort of has a little extra notch back here that sort of gets hidden. So that one goes in there like so and snaps on. And I believe there are magnets in here, which I love magnets when it comes to display pieces like this and props in general. It's such an ingenious way to get a sure connection without having to add a bunch of extra stuff to it. All right, and last but not least, we have the two guns for the front here. Those were kind of hidden in the box on me a little bit, so we'll go ahead and install those. Again, with magnets, which are fantastic, and those snap right into place. You can't even get that one wrong. Okay, so there we go. So this is the MYC TIE Fighter from A New Hope. This is the clean version without glass and without little electronic lights and things like that on it. And it is a really, really cool piece. I mean, just look at the scale. Again, guys, I'm 6'7", so I'm a bigger human, but this thing is nice and big and massive, and I just really love what MYC is doing here. I have a tiny little gap on the wing over here. Maybe that's a matter of me taking this off. Let's start flipping it upside down. Presto, perfect now. So really no complaints on this one, no complaints on mine. I just feel lucky that I was able to secure it and purchase it because I came to Michael late and he just happened to have a lucky one here. So big kind of announcement from MYC though. If you're watching this video now, before September 16th, I think it is, which is the coming Saturday, before noon, there is going to be a Tie Interceptor available, and I'm going to go ahead and show some photos of that here on the screen so you can get an idea of what that looks like. That is going to come in both a clean version and a weathered version, again with glass or without glass, with cabin lights or without cabin lights. And I believe all of them light up though when it comes to the rear lights. And you also have the option to add the red stripes on the side, which comes from some Legends material. What I love is that I remember when that sort of request had been put out into the group, at least I saw it on a chat, and the group at MYC and the Sci-Fi Studio Scale modelers who kind of work together to build these, they're always super receptive to the customers. So I mentioned the AT-AT earlier. You know, there was a Hoth-based version and a plain version. Some people had some suggestions or some critiques on what was shown early on, and they listened to them and they kind of reworked it and came up with a new version of it. And I just love that. Like, you know, the MYC is definitely making stuff for people like you and me, definitely making stuff for collectors who really, really care and are passionate about it, and they leave their ego at the door and they just want to deliver a great product. I mentioned the timetable on the Tie Interceptor coming out because it is absolutely crucial that if you really want one of their pieces, that you be on their website at 12 o'clock Eastern time to order it. They are usually gone within 5 to 10 minutes. Now there's a lot of different versions and things like that will be available, so maybe you'll have a little bit better opportunity with something like the Tie Interceptor, but I know they like to try to limit their stuff to around 100, maybe 200 examples on the high end, just to really make sure that they can deliver for their customers. And that's one thing I definitely want to highlight about MYC is that they are like a legit business. They actually deliver things. They are constantly working on it. You get updates on little paint applications and when things come back from modelers. Maybe they occasionally move a shipment date by a month or two, but you can feel good buying it from them. I've heard so many stories of people, you know, working with model makers or working with helmet makers, and you know, sometimes it just never comes together. I've also just read this with droid makers and things like that. You know, they're not giving it their full-time attention. They're doing other jobs. And I don't know what Michael does outside of MYC, but I always feel good buying it from him. I know he's going to deliver that product to me within a given window, and I'm going to be really happy with it. I'm going to be satisfied with it. And they're kind of the only ones that are really making things consistently on this scale where you can go to their website and purchase it. So I'm a big fan. I really enjoy them. You know, they're not inexpensive, but when you think about the scale of something like this, I mean, just imagine this, and this was sitting in your office or something like that. It just has such presence. And it's no more than what you're gonna pay for a really, really nice Sideshow piece or something like that when it comes to, you know, their bigger stuff like the Rancor and things like that. And I just think they're doing a fantastic job, and I'm really glad that they're in this market. All right, collectors, well, there you have it. This is the MYC TIE Fighter from A New Hope. Again, clean version without the glass, no electronics. Got super lucky to get this, feel really fortunate. I mentioned the Tie Interceptor that's coming out really soon, so if you want to pre-order that, I'll put the URL down at the bottom so that you can find that. But they also have things like the X-Wing is coming out. They also have a Millennium Falcon coming out that is going to be master replica size. So all of us that have really wanted to buy something that is like the master replica Millennium Falcon, we're going to have our opportunity finally through MYC. And you always get a little bit of a preview a few days ahead of time. They let you know like when it's going to happen. Lots of pictures of it, lots and lots of pictures. Jorge from the Hyperdrive almost always has some sort of little preview video on it so you can get his thoughts on it. And you know, then when it hits 12 o'clock Eastern time on that Saturday, you know, you place your order. I've done it. I was on a paintball field once doing it. I just bought a countertop for my bathroom, and I like pulled over to the side of the road to do another one. So you got to be right on it. But I don't think you'd be disappointed if you end up with something like this in your collection. Guys, if you're not already following me on Instagram, make sure you do. It's a place where you and I can connect a little bit more directly. I'm always putting up polls on there. Anytime I find a really good deal on something, I want to share with you guys too. We also just hit like a milestone for subscribers here recently. We hit 3250, which is really, really cool. Although by the time I'm recording this, I think we're already 50 some beyond that, and that just happened. So you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for clicking subscribe and helping this channel grow. It's the only way that I get this stuff done and out, because I want to help you guys make the most out of your collection and the most out of your collection dollars, and maybe show you stuff that you're not going to get to own, but you can see it up close here and hear my thoughts on it. Make sure you subscribe if you like Sideshow, Hot Toys, one-to-one props, all that stuff. I still have a whole bunch of boxes. Oh, this is one of the biggest ones that was back there behind me of things that I need to unbox here in the very near future. Guys, I think that's it, all right? See ya.